Okie doke. So Charmeleon, um, Charmeleon, I feel is much like Ivysaur, the middle evolution, somewhat overlooked. Do you have any fond memories of Charmeleon?
I mean, all of the Charlie Charmanders that I had as a child evolved into perfectly competent Charlie Charmeleons. Um, and I feel like, but yeah, as the middle evolution of a starter, it is roundly overlooked. But also, again, being um, the one starter of Ashes that did evolve, I guess Charmeleon kind of got more screen time than Ivysaur and Wartortle.
Mm.
Um, because I mean, you know, the Charmander evolving into Charmeleon and then immediately evolving into uh Charizard pretty much is quite a memorable episode. Like that's a good episode.
Yeah,
Uh, you see a lot of like Charmeleon's character, and I think Charmeleon in the show has quite a distinct character, even though it's just there for like one episode, because um it's very determined, and you see why Charmander needed to evolve. You see why Charmeleon, and you see that kind of, I don't want to say determination again, I've already said that, but like you see that like resolve and that grit and those guts that um push Charmander to evolve, and then like it's evident throughout the episode and then just keeps going. And so even though it was only in the show briefly, it was at least memorable.
mm. So well, my connection with Charmeleon is again linked to like with the Bulbasaur line, the card game. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the base set Charizard is like one of the most sought after cards. Um, like so at last year's WrestleMania, Logan Paul a like a very rare kind of in very good condition Charizard around his like neck as part of his
Hmm.
like bad guy heel character that he was like, look at this is one of the things that I've got versus all you people who do not have one kind of thing. Um,
Mm.
but as a result, because there were so few Charizards floating around, there was quite a number of Charmeleons floating around, and I don't know quite the time frame, but I'm I'm guessing that this is beyond the point where they had recognised that Charizard was going to be very popular, so they made the Charmeleon card decent. Because if you didn't have a Charizard card, you could still play your Charmeleon card, which was
Yeah.
I want to say 70 HP, which is around about as high as like Hitmonchan at the time, who I think
Oh, okay.
also had a 70. Um, but so that's kind of my entry, and he's got like quite cool looking card design. Like some of the card designs are like pretty cool, and some of them are not. So like Ponyta's,
Yeah.
yeah, like Ponyta's is one is just like them just stood in a field, rubbish, right? But but like Charmeleon's like slashing in front of a volcano and stuff like that. Um,
Nice.
so I do remember that, and I also remember him being in the anime. I feel like they tried they tried to do some like comedy with the Charmeleon. Well, they did, but I felt like I never quite like connected with it. Like how he would like burn Ash, um,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and
All that I get that like it would burn Ash, but like that was Pikachu's bit. He already did it. Like it was just the same again. The same joke.
and I mean, I appreciate that. I think it's like quite a cool way of doing quite a cool way of doing the that like Ash hasn't earned the respect and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Mm.
but and that kind of Charmeleon has evolved early, which goes into a little bit my kind of headcanon that I mentioned on one of the previous episodes, that I I view the video games as like, you know how in the video games your like your Ivysaur evolves at level 16 and your Venusaur evolves at like level 32. Um, but like for me, that's you as the player character. That's the point where these Pokemon evolve, versus someone else who might have a different level rate where they will evolve, and I think that that's like quite a nice way of kind of playing around with this, that like Pokemon like evolve differently in different situations and for different people.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that. I think it's a very interesting concept. I think because in the show they don't talk about levels all that much. So I think like the level thing is because that's the easiest way to program a game,
Mm.
really, more than anything. And so um it makes sense to let it be ambiguous, and it makes sense to let it be flexible.
Yeah, I mean I've got another headcanon that again that with like the traded Pokemon that and you can go either way with this, that they evolve when they get traded because either they're like um, oh I've I wasn't wanted, therefore I'm going to prove them wrong and evolve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
I get that.
or the other
That's very cool.
Yeah. Or the other one is I feel so. They wanted me to show off how good I am to like another trainer. Therefore, I'm gonna evolve to like show that I'm like even better. So like you could go down the pessimist or the optimistic route with that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's cool that they played around with the evolution stuff in the show, which I think that they would tap into a little bit in the games with like the friendship ratings and you know being able to do like various little things later on. Like one of the ones that jumps out to me is in one of the new games. I think there's a Pokemon called Alcremie that
Yep.
that evolves when you like spin around loads, and basically it's a cream Pokemon, and when you spin around
Hmm.
loads, it gets whipped up and then it turns into a new Pokemon. So I like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Ooh,
yeah, it's
just
nice.
knocking stuff over, sorry.
Oh mate, I don't know if you've been hearing any like thuds, but like I've just constantly got stuff just dropping just out of sight at all times. Um, but yeah, I like the fact that they've found a way of getting away from the leveling system with you know keep it for like most of them because it makes sense like what you say, but
Yeah.
it is nice that there are other options.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it where it is involved in like um some kind of interaction with the world. Um because it feels more kind of grounded, and it feels more like there's a story, there's a world outside of battling that exists, and I like that element of it. I like more of a sense of narrative
Yeah,
for each Pokemon. And like, have you seen the episode of Pokemon where they show you Pikachu's backstory?
is that the one? Is it the Goodbye Pikachu one?
Don't think so.
Then no, I have not. Please enlighten me.
Where Pikachu, because obviously like Pichu evolves into Pikachu as through happiness and friendship, but Pikachu was given to Ash as a Pikachu um already, and then like they kind of gave Pikachu a backstory in like a more recent season where like a little Pichu befriends a Kangaskhan and like rides around in its pouch and goes on these adventures and like feels um like part of the family and is included, and that's when it evolves into Pikachu. And I think that's really cute because like you know Pichu was a later addition to the series, and it did raise the question like, well, how did Ash's Pikachu become a Pikachu?
Mm.
And I like that they showed that Pokemon that evolve via friendship. It doesn't have to be via a friendship with a trainer.
Mm,
And I think that kind of thing also, like when it says specifically with its trainer, it's like, okay, but this is Pokedex is written from the perspective of people who raise, train, and battle Pokemon. Is it actually that, or is it something else in a different context? Because the same feeling of being in a family for that Pichu with other Pokemon can evolve it into a Pikachu, um, without needing it to be a relationship with a trainer,
mm,
which I quite liked. I liked seeing that. And I think it gave sort of like an in-world um backstory to and context for other Pokemon in um like that evolve through that sort of thing and through like non-level based things.
mm. Well, I, uh, I think it also links into like. Have you heard the theory about Kangaskhan um, being a like a no, not Kangaskhan. Well, it could potentially be Kangaskhan, but like Cubone and Marowak potentially being either
Yeah.
a Kangaskhan, or I've also heard a Charmander whose like mum's
Hmm.
died is because the like points on the skull look similar to a
Yeah.
Charizard's points. Um, but yeah, like if they wanted to, they could go down that route. But I feel like it's probably too late now. I feel like things are a bit too set for them to add something like
Yeah.
that in now.
I feel like if I mean they kind of are with like Diglett and Wiglet and Tentacle and Toedscool and having those being like with the Pokédex entries being these Pokemon are not related to each other. They share a common ancestor. So I feel like those those sorts of things means um they are canonically introducing real world evolution as well as Pokemon world evolution, which I think is pretty cool. And I think it lends a bit of credence to those fun fan theories about, yeah, which Pokemon have relationships
Yeah,
with other Pokemon in the decks and how.
yeah. Well, I mean, to bring it back to Charmeleon, that I think it also touches on the game mechanic, and I think it's quite interesting the way that they did it. That not all Pokemon will respect you if you don't have the gym badges, um,
Yeah.
which is like I think is a really clever game mechanic that it stops you from just trading in a load of like level 100 Pokemon from the beginning and just like
Yeah.
blasting through the game. But also there's I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a fan theory that the reason why Charmeleon ends up disobeying Ash is because he never really earned his first two badges.
Yeah. And also like in the fight where Charmeleon evolves into Charizard as well, like Ash isn't really involved. And it's kind of like a very specific, I don't need you. Like I am clearly capable. Um, I will evolve. I will fight Aerodactyl, and you back the fuck off because you are not helping.
Mm,
Um, and like it, I feel like I would have liked to have seen more of that. Like, because there are some bits of the anime where Ash is just a pants trainer. He's just coasting, and he's not like. And I remember in later episodes where um uh they have clearly put more effort into the script and clearly put more effort into like the character design where you see him getting creative with his strategy.
mm,
Like there was like a double battle with his Froakie and his Horlucha where he was like, right, we're going to combine your two moves in a way that is going to do something no one's ever seen before. Let's try practicing this. And like you see that and like a few years ago, but not as a child, and being like, oh, they've actually given Ash some creativity and made him into a more flesh. person that could feasibly be the best of something rather than just a kid guessing his way through things the whole time.
Mm.
Because that's very much what he's doing in the first season. And in the first few episodes, they make fun of him for that, for like being so convinced he's going to be the best, but actually not having a lot of skill yet.
Mm.
Um, and I think I liked Charmeleon's acknowledgement of that. And I liked I would have even liked to have seen them lean into it more
Yeah.
with Charizard.
Yeah.
Because it Charizard was disobedient, but it didn't have loads of nuance for a lot of the episodes, which I guess is fine because they were focusing on other things. But I think they could have done even more with it
Mm.
in a way.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Charmeleon never really gets that arc that
Mm,
Charizard does, which again I think is part of the reason why they're probably even more so than the other two evolutions, other two middle evolutions of the starters, overlooked.
yeah.
Partly because of the like how dominant Ash's Charizard is, how dominant Charizard normally is, but also in the anime, like what I want to say, we only see him for about maybe 5 to 8 episodes, and then maybe even less, and then he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. He does evolve very quickly, but again, it's still more screen time than Ivysaur or Wartortle will get because those don't evolve.
Mm,
Well, Ash's Bulbasaur and Squirtle don't evolve.
yeah. Well, should we have a look at the dex entries?
Let's do that.
So so we've got here. Um, it swings its burning tail. It elevates the temperature to unbearably high levels. So, is that just because it's getting extra oxygen, or because it's done that intentionally?
I don't know. I don't think that gives me enough information to know.
I tell you what, I think this is either. I find this interesting, but I don't know how interesting it is. I feel like when we looked at Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur last time,
Hmm.
they had their own, like red and blue seem to have their own entries, whereas
Yeah.
for Charmander and Charmeleon they've been like doubling up. Um,
Hmm.
so so maybe that's a sign that like the Bulbasaur line and the Charmander line like came in like much later. Like it wouldn't surprise me if towards the end of them putting the games together, they were like, just double up the dex entries. Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
Maybe.
on the flip side, they could have been like, as we're getting towards the end of the development, no, we need like a little bit more detail here potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I've just noticed across the two. So we've got yellow. Tough fights could excite this Pokemon. When excited, it may blow out bluish white flames.
Bluish white flames.
So that feels like linked to the anime, and we know that like yellow is somewhat influenced by the anime. Like, do you think that
Yeah.
that's connected to the Charmeleon episodes?
Yeah, because like Charmeleon is more aggressive in the show than Charmander. Charmeleon does, um, you know, get more excited about fights, and I think Charmeleon is kind of a good contrast to like the way you see Charmander initially, where it's all shy and scared, and seeing it grow into such a an aggressive Pokemon, I think that is definitely feeding into this because a lot of these are about its personality and its aggression and like it feels almost hormonal. Like it feels like it's part of its growth process from a cute little baby to a big angry dragon.
Mm.
Um that um you know
Yeah,
that that change is inspiring it to kind of like you know deal with a lot of things and be a little bit maybe unstable emotionally.
I mean, who hasn't been there? The terrible twos, the
Yeah.
terrible second generations evolutions. So we've got the Stadium Professor again, who I feel feels a little bit more on board, but they have gone for like a different route here. It appears to be very vicious. It attacks with razor sharp claws and won't stop until the enemy is defeated. That for me feels like the best one of these entries that we've read so far.
Yeah. I also like that it appears to be very vicious because, like, maybe you just caught it on a bad day.
Mm, very true.
Hmm.
So we've got Gen 2 now. It is very hot-headed by nature. I like the fact that they're putting a little pun in there. Uh,
Hmm.
so it constantly seeks opponents. It calms down only when it wins. Um,
I feel like that makes it, to me, feel like it's a shame that you don't see the starter Pokemon more in the games, and I get why. Because they want that sense of exclusivity, but especially now that like they don't have it anymore because it's so easy to breed and trade. I think it would be cool to see like little rampaging clans of Charmeleon just like running through the world. I think that would be like a fun little sight.
mm,
Like I think I'd like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, uh, us reading that, it's just reminding me of so in Pokemon Snap. I don't know if you remember, but on the volcano level, you
Hmm.
can get a Charmander to evolve by getting attacked by a Magmar, and then the Charmeleon will like attack it back, which is like quite cool as a kind of like. I mean, I mentioned this on that podcast that I did that it almost feels like sometimes you're like viewing the natural Pokemon world, and that's something that we don't see very often. You know, even
Yeah.
even in Violet, like I'll be running around, but like all these Pokemon just appear and then like come to me because they like want to fight me. Versus
Mm.
like you never really see them having a battle just between themselves, like what you do in Pokemon
Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so again, we're going down the nature. Like it's I think it's interesting that they've gone down this route. Given with Charmander, they just kept on going tails on fire, tails on
Tails of
fire.
Fire.
Whereas with this one,
Like,
they're talking about like what it's like. It almost sounds like it's like a Pokemon that you don't necessarily want to like have on your party potentially because it's like because it could attack you.
mm,
It has a barbaric nature. In battle, it whips its fiery tail around and slashes away with sharp claws.
I feel like they're kind of being a dick to Charmeleon here. Like, you've raised it to fight. What did you expect? Like, surely that's call- are they all barbaric in nature, or is your one just a dick?
But is it not isn't the idea kind of that you catch the Pokemon and then you send it off to Oak and he kind of studies it for a bit? Like in that kind of the point of like Oak's PC, um, or
Yeah,
is it well Bill's PC I suppose.
Bill's PC.
Um,
You put them in boxes, and I guess I like the bit in I like in Arceus Legends where it's pastures, like how much pasture space you have. It's like you've sent them all back um to the farm.
but yeah, that's kind of like I mean I don't know if you do the same, right? Right, I'm gonna show how sad I am now. When I think this happened around about the third generation, maybe the fourth, but I want to say it's the third. They started like colouring in the boxes. So like
Yeah.
so like one of them's like a brick background and like one of them's like a field, and I would put them in the box that most suited their like environment.
Yeah, and you could like change the background. You have like this is my box of fire types and this is my box of water types.
Mm.
I would always start doing that, but then like when you caught one, it wasn't like I would like it if it said which box do you want to send it to so I could organize it better. And then just by the end, I'm just like, okay, well, they can all go in whatever fucking box they want apart from my shinies, which I'm keeping separate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, shiny because I've only ever caught one shiny.
Oh, mate.
Yeah. Well, I tell a lie. I mean, I've also caught the red Gyarados, but don't count that one, does it?
I might this might I don't know if this is gonna be cool or sad, but I got really into shiny hunting for a bit. Um I on my Alpha Sapphire I have like nearly 70 hunted and bred shinies, all with my trainer number. I was very proud of it. I was like, I want a shiny live index, but I just I had to be a grown up with a job and I didn't have quite the time needed to invest in a shiny live index, unfortunately.
Well, if ever there was an argument against the capitalistic system that we're in, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's like I know exactly what I'd rather be doing, and it is filling out my shiny decks.
well, my shiny that I caught actually, you've already somewhat seen in both episodes of the Talking Trubbish podcast, which was
Ooh.
a shiny gloom.
Like, is that why you like Gloom? You have an attachment to it as a because it was your first shiny. I caught a shiny Gloom one time. I didn't hunt it. It was completely full odds random. To the point that I was going to hunt something else. Um, and I was going through some grass and I ran into something and I was like, oh, I want to get on with my hunting. I don't want to like what I'm looking for isn't here. And it was a shiny gloom. And I was like, I need to shut up. I'm just going to appreciate this and catch this gloom.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was very pleased with my shiny gloom.
I didn't like go looking for it. I just came across it, and when we got the the intro slide, which again I'll just get up. When we got that, I almost asked Rob to turn it into a shiny, but again I didn't want it to be like a I didn't want it to like stand out in any way. But if we get like read up, I might get it changed into the shiny one that I caught.
Do it. Go for it. That's fine. Because like I get that. Because like your gloom, you have an emotional attachment to because it was your first shiny. My crowbar, I have an emotional attachment to because it's the first one I evolved via friendship. Like, yeah, I get it.
So for some reason, I thought you were going to say I had an attachment to because it was my first tattoo. But then I was like, no, that's the reason why you got
That's
the
the other way
tattoo.
around.
So let's flip back into the decks. Let's see if people keep on being a dick to Charmeleon.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. Okie doke. So, got more hot-headed by nature. Constantly seeks opponents. Okay, so we're in Ruby and Sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
Charmeleon mercilessly destroys its foes using its sharp claws. If it encounters a strong foe, it turns aggressive. In this excited state, the flame at the tip of its tail turns into a bluish-white colour. So that almost...
we're back to the tail.
Yeah, it feels like they're running out of ideas.
I mean, it's back to the tail, but I guess now I'm sort of seeing it goes back to when Charmander's excited, like its emotional state affects its tail, and now it's like when Charmeleon's gonna fucking kill you, its flame goes blue.
So there you go. If you're ever near a Charmeleon and its flame is blue, you might have like slept with its wife and it's not happy. So we got Gen 4 now. They've actually gone for something new here. In the Rocky Mountains, where Charmeleon lives, their fiery tails shine at night like stars. Which is...
Oh no, that's just a tail thing again.
Yeah, but at least they're not calling it a dick this time.
That is true. It actually sounds quite sweet. Shine at night like stars. Like, maybe there are like children wishing on Charmeleon tails that they can see in the distance.
I think that sounds pretty nice. Like you could be like, oh, is that the Joneses' house burning down in the distance, or is it a bunch of Charmeleons on a rock? Or you could be like, oh, maybe the Joneses have upset a Charmeleon and they because those flames have turned blue, right? And then we got some more of the same for Gen 6 and Gen 7. Tough fights could excite this Pokemon, and then again the tail. So yeah, that's that there is our decks. Do you have any thoughts on the decks before we move on?
I think I, I would like to know how many Charmeleons the people writing this decks knew, and if they just have one real angry Charmeleon, apart from the guy who wrote Diamond and Pearl, um, because then like that one's like, oh, you know, and then the others are just like, well, this guy's a little bellend, angry little shit, you know. That's my hot take on the Charmeleon Pokedex entries.
Fabulous. And we've got and I mean my thoughts on it is like, are they all dicks? Or are we gonna see like a trend in the Pokemon world of hashtag not all Charmeleons?
I would like that. I would like that. Someone draw a Charmeleon looking grumpy and holding up a sign being like, I wasn't angry until you called me angry. Like, nothing was wrong until you kept asking what was wrong.
Or just being really passive aggressive, like with a blue tail, like going, "Can I speak to the manager, please?"
Nickname your next Charmeleon Karen.
I think I've got a Karen. I think one of my Pokemon in Violet got named Karen.
Nice.
Okay, so we are gonna go into we're gonna go into the Smogon rating, which is, as you'll be able to see here, they're in a type called again. This is the competitive battling scene. They're in a type called NFE, which means not fully evolved, which means that I think it's like not really got a place, really a placement. It can't go in the little cup, and if it's not fully evolved, then it's like where's it gonna go other than to fight other second gen types? Because it's the other
you know where like. All right, I'm going back to the story world bit. Sorry for interrupting, but like when like real world lions will like teach their kids how to hunt by like pretending that the kids are stalking them and like are winning in fights. I like the idea of like Charizards pretending to lose to like aggressive little Charmeleons to like help them tough.
I mean, I could see that being the case. I mean, maybe that's why they get so angry, because they feel like ultimately all their victories are ultimately meaningless.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're like, maybe when they realize the Charizards are letting them win, that's when they start getting really aggressive. They're like, oh, I'm fine, happy, and play fighting until I realize that you are just ripping me off the whole time.
They're going, did you see my tail?
Patronizing bastard.
My tail was blue, and you were just pissing me about. I tell you what, right, genuinely. So in preparation for this episode, I'd not looked at a picture of a Charmeleon because I didn't want it to be. Like affect my drawing. If you can believe the fine piece of artwork that I showed off earlier. But when I got that picture up of Charmeleon, my first thought was I'd forgotten that Charmeleons have shoulders. How come none of the professors are mentioning this? Charmeleon, extremely vicious, blue tip on tail, lovely smooth shoulders.
Yeah, to be fair, I forget to draw shoulders on a lot of things that I draw. Like I didn't like drawing the Bulbasaur a lot. I was like, what's its like back like? Because it's got the bulb on it, but like underneath the bulb, like it can't go like up and around like that like you draw an animal back, because it's got to go down and in for the bulb. And that, yeah, like I didn't like, and I was like, what's its like, where's its like haunches? but got there in the end. Like it did. Do remember like thinking for like just looking at the blank paper, just like what shape is it?
But yeah, it's very overlooked, and
Yes.
I mean, and you can even see that there where it says no move sets available, which was the same for
Yeah.
Ivysaur. So that gives you an idea of
Yeah.
how little used I think Charmeleon
Mm.
is. Um, so with that in mind, what Trubbish rating would you give?
I think I would give him like 7.5
7.5.
because it is overlooked, but as far as middle evolutions go, it has more personality and more of a memorable story than the others.
That's fair. I feel like I'm going to be controversial though. I'm
Ooh.
going to give it the lowest. I think the lowest Trubbish rating that we've given so far, a 6.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I think it is so overshadowed by its on either side. It's not like with Ivysaur on the last one. I think
Mm.
I think it's seen as like a stopgap to Charizard, and
Yeah.
it's not as cute as Charmander, and I think it's got a lot going against it.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. That's valid.
So I'm going to give it a 6, and I've not been keeping a track of these. Really, I should, but I think that's the lowest Trubbish rating that we've given so far. A
Yeah.
6. Um, I was going to ask you if you had any spicy takes, but I don't know if is giving it a 6 the spiciest take I could do.
I think it might be. I think that might be our spicy take.
Okay, right. Well, that there was the Charmeleon episode. Again, just check out all the link trees on the Talking Trubbish link tree to see all the various things that we've got, such as the videos, such as like additional like full length uploads of the streams and stuff like that.
Yeah, have a little subscribe of our YouTube channel.